and thus concludes a long and painful season. Go ahead and add this season onto the piles and piles of disappointing seasons we've had. Bears finished 6-11 as they lose to the Minnesota Vikings 31-17 in the season closer out in Minnesota. So I'm actually recording this a couple days after the game, so I know that Nagy was fired after this game, and so was Mike Zimmer. But we're going to go ahead and focus on this team first before talking about any other news. And it's basically going to be partially an off-season type of preparing video. So leading up to this game, there was questions whether or not Fields was actually going to play or not. He doesn't play. Dalton gets the start to end the season. And in the first half, the team did not look... Actually, they did look pretty bad. I don't think there was a single drive in the first half where the Bears did not get into plus territory. They were in Minnesota Vikings territory on every single drive in the first half, and they only led by 14 at halftime. This is a bad thing because several of these drives were stalled out on stupid fourth down calls by Matt Nagy, who's just adding to the legacy of just going for it on fourth down when you really shouldn't be. We scored 2 field goals. 6-0. And then towards the end of the first half, Andy Dalton throws a touchdown pass, a very nice touchdown pass after a pretty bad play. The following play, he goes the exact same place. Damian Williams, he's wide open. Williams takes it in for a touchdown. And Allen Robinson catches a 2-point conversion. I'll talk about him later. But this game really should have been at least 21-0 at halftime because the Bears defense was doing its job, but the offense, give it the chances, could not score points. It's a problem we've had all season, and as you see in the second half, it became a problem. I don't know what happened after that touchdown was scored. After Damian Williams caught that touchdown pass, the team just stopped showing up. They just forgot how to play football because in under a minute, I think even under 30 seconds, Kirk Cousins led the Vikings to a field goal with crazy passes, crazy deep passes that the Vikings had not been hitting up until that point. They ended up hitting them, of course, and it's a pretty easy field goal. They get the ball to start the second half, and naturally, Cousins throws a touchdown to what's his name? Smith Marset. Is that what the guy's name is? Took a 45-yard bomb for a touchdown. He was wide open. And then, a little bit later, Eddie Jackson just decides to stand there and decide to not cover Justin Jefferson, and he makes a touchdown catch, and Vikings take the lead. Bears wound up scoring a field goal in the second half, but that was all they could muster because, you know what? On that play, on that touchdown play, I don't know what. I think it was Vildor who was covering him. I don't know what he was thinking, but he decided, hey, I'm covering Justin Jefferson one-on-one. I'm going to rush the quarterback. And then Justin Jefferson's just wide open. No one's covering him as he runs straight down to the end zone. And then Eddie Jackson tries to pick him up, but then just decides to stand there and do nothing when the ball actually gets thrown to him. The team just looked bad. They looked bad. Vikings would score another touchdown. Cousins would throw another touchdown pass. And then, as Nagy does, just goes for it on fourth down. And on all these fourth down conversions that Nagy went for in this game, the offensive line crumbled and Dalton had nothing. Literally. It kind of reminded me of the Cleveland game really early in the season where Justin Fields had no time in the pocket. Andy Dalton had no time in the pocket. And it's a lot tougher when you have Andy Dalton, who's older and is not as mobile as Justin Fields. So, obviously, we didn't convert any of those. I mean, Dalton didn't look great, but then again, none of our quarterbacks have really looked great this season. It's just been good quarterback play every now and then, and mostly bad quarterback play. You can find other reasons on why that would be the case, but in general, quarterback play during this season was not great. I mean, if you look at the overall records, Dalton went 3 2-3, if I'm correct. Justin Fields went 2-8, and Nick Foles went 1-0 in starts. Like, Dalton won more games than Justin Fields this season as a starter. He did. I mean, yeah, you could say, well, it was against the Lions and then the Giants, and then they got that start against the Bengals. Still 3 wins. Justin Fields got wins against the Lions and the Raiders and lost every single start from there. He won. He started out 2-1 as a starter, lost 7 straight games. I mean, what else do you want me to tell you? He had his moments of greatness, but still 2-8. That's kind of a good way to sum up this season as Andy Dalton throws a pick 6 on this 4th and 11 heave to Patrick Peterson, who didn't have a pick this year, and takes it all away for a touchdown. So that's how he reached the final score, 31-17. And see, it's a good way to sum up the season. Just moments of greatness, but overall, not good. There were some fantastic moments this season. For example, Justin Fields' touchdown run against the 49ers showed his mobility off in that play. Then there was Andy Dalton finding Marquise Goodwin on 4th and I think 11 to take the lead against the Ravens. We know how that ends. Then there was, Jakeem Grant returning that punt all the way from 97 against Green Bay. We all know how that finished. We, Nick Foles throwing to Jimmy Graham and then converting the 2-point conversion to Damiere Byrd. But, I mean, the 3 straight picks against Burrow, which his team's in the playoffs. His team won the division. We went 1-3 against the AFC North. The only team we beat was the team who won the division, weirdly enough. And, I mean, Justin Fields, he drove down to take the lead against Pittsburgh. I mean, all these moments have a common thread outside of the Nick Foles to Jimmy Graham and Damiere Byrd play. All of those games we lost. Justin Fields against the Niners, really nice. Still lost. Justin Fields leading the touchdown drive against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Fantastic. Showed him he can, play in the clutch. Still lost. Andy Dalton heaving to Marquise Goodwin, clutching up to take the lead against the Ravens. Still lost. It's like the team could not finish games. They had some very nice plays. Team very well could have gone at least 8-9 with how many of these games they probably could have and frankly should have won. But you know what? It's just how life is. I don't know, man. The season is just a waste. It's just a waste. And so many opportunities where the team could have scored valuable points, even just field goals, were squandered because of failed 4th down conversions, bad interceptions, bad turnovers, just bad plays, play calling, you name it. Chances when this team could put some real points on the board, and they couldn't do it. Our highest scoring game was against Green Bay on Lambeau. 30 points was the most we scored this season. I'm not kidding. We had one 30-point game this season. We scored 27 in the first half against Green Bay, scored 3 the rest of the half. The rest of the second half. Game against the Giants. That was great. 22 points in the first half. 7 points in the second half to reach the final score of 29. The team is not staying on the gas as much as the Giants game. You can say like that they didn't need to stay on the gas, but a couple of these games they played well in the first half, and then they let off the gas. The other team keeps on the gas. They keep scoring points, and the Bears end up can't put the ball. They can't score points. It's simple. Sometimes the team would actually play all right in the first half, only for them to just not show up in the second half. So they finished 6-11 in the first 17-game season for the Bears. And honestly, with this offseason coming up, I don't see it getting much better. Look, we'll get Khalil Mack back. Honestly, with how well Robert Quinn was playing, I completely forgot we had Khalil Mack for quite a few games this season. I really did forget that we did have Khalil Mack because he wasn't playing, and Quinn was playing so well. And then Smith was playing so well. Our secondary needs work. That is definitely a point of interest. If I'm talking about two position groups that the Bears need to do well on drafting and free agency, whatnot, secondary and the offensive line. Those are the two biggest positions that we need to fill to, I think, have at least a solid, well-rounded team without any major holes, because those are our major problems this season. I think if I was going to add on to that, I'd add the receiving core, because we're probably going to lose Robinson in the offseason if we cannot re-sign him to a big contract. We do have some kind of cap space. We're not in a really, really tight cap environment. We don't have any of that like major cap issues. So we do have some money to spend. I don't think we can sign Robinson to a 4-year, $60 million contract. But I mean, it's not like we have no cap to spend, so we can sign some players if we want to. The problem, especially with Robinson, is we need to sign him to a long-term deal. He's not going to accept a franchise tag again. When it comes to Mooney, it's just his second year. I think his rookie contract, I don't know exactly when that's up, but he's turning out to be a solid wide receiver one. He was a wide receiver one this year. I'm going to say it. I'm pretty sure it's pretty obvious. Robinson was just not active. I don't know what the team did to him and what happened, but just no one wanted to throw to Robinson. And it's kind of just depressing. You have a fantastic receiver, arguably a top 10 receiver in the league. When you talk about skill alone, talk about Allen Robinson with how well he is with contested catches. Probably, I can't think of any other on the top of my head, but I do think Robinson's one of the best, if not the best, receiver when it comes to contested catches. And we didn't use him. We just didn't throw him the ball. He wasn't getting anything. He got, I think, maybe one touchdown this season. One. And that was in week 2. We underutilized Robinson. I think we used Mooney very well. He was a fantastic receiver. But we had no real wide receiver 2. It was changing throughout the year all the time. First it was Robinson. First Robinson was number 1. Then he became number 2. And then it was like Marquise Goodwin after Robinson was out for a couple games. And then he came back and he didn't really get back to that point. Demir Byrd had his moments of greatness. We have some receivers that can catch the ball. We just can't throw the ball. And we can't pass. We can't move the ball effectively down the field. We need to be able to stretch the field, which Fields did a couple times against the Lions. And that was it. I'm going to be honest. Really, there was no other times where Nagy stretched the field. There are so many things I could say about Nagy's play calling and all that other stuff. He's gone. Best of luck in the future for you, Matt, but I don't think it's really smart for you to get another head coaching job here. I think you should just go back to being a coordinator. I think you'll probably be far more successful at that. Because you know what? There are so many coordinators that are much better as just being coordinators and not a head coach. Matt Patricia is a perfect example just from our own division. And look, we're going to have to not only find a new head coach, but we also got to, find a new GM. Ryan Pace is gone. And as much as I could talk about Ryan Pace, about, he drafted Roquan Smith, found some really good gems in the late rounds, Montgomery, Mooney. He has not done great when it comes to free agent signings and trades and whatnot. Trading away Gold, which you could make an argument to say that trading away Gold was the reason why we ended up losing to the Eagles, because of our kicking situation in the 2018 wild card. You could say that, there are so many things you could say about Ryan Pace and about, he could have drafted Trubisky, or he could have drafted Mahomes or Watson. He made a couple really, really bad choices, but he had some good choices. I think when it comes to Pace, I'm a little bit more neutral, and I'm like, I can see some of the good things that he did, but honestly, it's not good enough. I mean, look, after last season, with Trubisky leaving and the quarterback situation up in arms. We then signed Andy Dalton. The entire fan base is just like, what are we doing? We leave Trubisky in the dust and we signed Andy Dalton. And so we then draft Justin Fields. Everyone's ecstatic. The fans expect him to play week 1. He doesn't. He gets to play in week 3. He gets absolutely destroyed in that game. Plays well for the next couple of games. And, I mean, he's made some very, very bad rookie mistakes. Justin Fields had his moments of greatness, but overall had a pretty bad rookie campaign. Now, in his defense, none of the quarterbacks in this rookie class, any of them really had great seasons. Mac Jones was the one who had the best season, and you could arguably say that was because he was coached by Belichick. Lawrence was god-awful with Urban Meyer. And Zach Wilson didn't play well. Granted, he was out for a bit. Who else? Trey Lance barely even played this season because Jimmy G is still a competent quarterback. And Fields just wasn't great. Now, look, there's all of these look, I don't think we should give up on Fields yet. There's no reason to give up on Justin Fields yet. It's only 1 year. When it comes to developing a quarterback, it's not going to hit like this. It takes time. Look, we lost Nagy, we lost Pace. We're going to have to find a new GM and a new head coach. We have to re-sign Robinson or let him walk, which would really suck because you know what? He's a fantastic talent, and we should really consider signing him to a big contract. Maybe a new GM will actually give him a contract. Just saying. Maybe a new head coach could work better with Justin Fields than Matt Nagy did. Maybe. But that's not for certain. There's going to be so many talks about who is going to be the next head coach, and frankly, I look at these signings and I'm like, I don't know, man. How do we know that the next guy that we're going to sign is going to be any different like the last 3 head coaches we've had? Trestman, Fox, and Nagy. How do we know this next coach is going to be any different and history's not going to repeat itself? That's kind of how I'm looking at this offseason. What about the next GM or the next head coach screams things are going to change like this? It's probably not. I'm going to be honest. Whoever we sign, chances are we may do a little bit better. There's so many things I could say about what we have to do in the offseason. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. The season just ended. We can worry about all that kind of stuff when we're talking about free agency, the draft, all that good stuff. Because, at this point, it's like, look, we just had a 6-11 season, and we just fired a head coach and GM. What are we going to do next? How are things going to change? Look, it's like, is it Nagy and Pace that were the problem? Or is it someone like Ted Phillips that's the problem? Or, go even higher, is it George McCaskey's fault that all this is happening? Which there are plenty of arguments to say yes. Because let's be real, those two have done a terrible job running this organization. This offseason is just going to be a long one. And honestly, last offseason there were a lot of questionable decisions. I don't know if this season's going to be any different. So, frankly, I'm going into this offseason in a pretty pessimistic attitude, honestly. It's really unfortunate how this season went, but you know what? There's always next year. Until you get to the point where you're just fed up with there's always next year and just wasting your time putting this much effort and passion and energy into a team that sucks. So all in all, this season is a failure. 6-11, Nagy's first losing season with the team and only losing season with the team. I don't know how that's possible, but it happened. And, well, we look forward to the future to try and see if the next guy we bring in is the answer. We all just have to hope and believe that the new head coach and GM will do a good job at not only getting good players, but developing the players that we already have, most specifically Justin Fields, and hopefully that he can develop and blossom into the star that we all hope he and know he can become. So with that, I think I'm going to end this season and put a nice little bow on the season. If you like this video or any of my reactions throughout this season, whether it had been through the wins or the losses, please give this video a thumbs up and please hit that subscribe button to know that you want to watch next season's reactions. And look, this has been the first season that really anything has gone well. Last year, I uploaded all of the videos after the season was over, and I've seen the support that you guys have brought in. We're over 250 subscribers now in one season, in just about a couple months during Bears season. We got some off-season videos. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and follow all my hockey reactions. I'm still going to be doing those that season. There's still a couple months left in that season, so that's going to be the focus of this channel going forward. Obviously, there's going to be the intermittent off-season video for the Bears, but outside of that, it's mainly going to be about the Blackhawks and their journey to see if they can even make the playoffs this year, or if they as well have another disappointing season. All that self-promotion out of the way, I want to thank you all for watching this season of Bears Fan Reacts, and I'll see you guys next time.